Hello and welcome to episode 195 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is July 31st, 2023. Today I'm wearing the little Geckolino shawl or shawlette that we knit as a knit along on this channel, and I used one skein of Wolldackel hand-dyed yarn in their Aniva colorway. This is, I think, Aniva Navy or some blue in their Aniva series. Aniva is a word for rainbow in some language, I think from Hawaii, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so they dye these yarns where they dye like tiny little rainbows and then one main color. And the pattern for this shawlette is, I think, quite a nice pattern. It's a free pattern, and the shawl works up in a way that you have three increase points. So instead of like in a triangular shawl, you would increase at one spine and at the two sides. But here you increase, you have like three spines to the shawl, if that makes sense. Plus you increase at the beginning and the end of a row. And you get this interesting shape that I like because it sits on the shoulders nicely, and you can knit it as big or as small as you want. So I kept it really small because I only wanted to use, or I think I only had this one skein of yarn in this color. So this came out really small, but it's nice for the summer when you just need a little warmth, like in the neck, maybe in the evening, or some really air-conditioned rooms. So I like that for the summer, that size. But if you have more yarn, you can make it a lot bigger. You can have a really big cuddly shawl to cuddle into. Yeah, so that's the Geckolino shawl. And the vest I'm wearing was knit by my friend and former colleague Ella. It was one of the Wolle samples that we had to knit for the shop window display, and it's knit out of a cotton mix yarn that's, they call it chain yarn. So the yarn itself is almost as if it was knit before, and then it's knit on fairly big needles, and it has this sort of cable pattern. I think it's not a traditional cable, but it's a sort of a cable. Yeah, so she knit it for because she had to knit it for our shop window display, and then afterwards she asked me if I wanted to have it because she knew that I love the color, and I said yes, thank you. Yeah, so I really enjoy wearing it, and it's the color that I just love wearing. Okay, then on to finished objects. This week I have one finished object and one new cast on, so that's really good. And my finished object is one of my pairs of socks, and these are the 3 times a cable sock. So this is a Sockmadness pattern. It was this year's pattern for round 6. And as I couldn't go on after round 5, so round 5 I was trying to compete, but then I was too slow. So with round 6 and 7 I wasn't in the competition. I could take my time, so it's taken me quite a long time to finish these socks, but I'm very happy with them. I know they look very chaotic and very colorful because I used 2 different variegated yarns to knit a colorwork pattern, and then I swapped the main color and contrast color for the second sock. So the colors are reversed in the 2 socks, except for this little bit, the heel turn, where I made a mistake in my second sock, and I forgot which one was color A, which one was color B. But for the rest of the sock, the colors are always reversed, and I think it's so interesting to see how different the patterns look, whether the dark is color 1 or the light is color 1. And the interesting thing is I still can't decide which orientation I prefer. So I really do like both socks. And I'm really happy that I decided to try both ways of knitting the pattern and the colors. And I'm looking forward to wearing the socks once I've done my little video with all the Sockmadness socks and once it gets cold enough. It's a bit colder at the moment here where I am in Germany, but not quite cold enough to wear warm socks like these. Anything else I need to say? I don't think so, and if so, I'll say it in once I do the video for the Sockmadness socks. So that's the finished object for today, and then for the works in progress, I'll continue with socks, and I have 2 half-finished projects. So I have 2 more finished socks, but no more finished pair. So the next sock on the needle are the Contrast Blast socks. The mystery sock knit along by Stephen West. I guess most of you have now seen what the socks look like. Just in case you want to look away, I'll be showing the socks now. So I'm using one Opal colorway that was part of the Opal Abo, the subscription yarn, but it's now part of the Rainforest series, so it's a yarn that you can buy. And the black is the alpaca sock yarn by Hansa Farm, and this is what Clue 3 looked like. And this was the first sock, I think that's the one I showed you last week, with the Clue 3 finished. And after that I finished Clue 3 on the second sock, and then when Clue 4 came out I continued knitting on that sock because the black yarn was hanging on that sock, and I finished it. So this is what this the Contrast Blast socks by Stephen West look like for me. And I'm saying for me because he gives, I don't know, 4 or 5 different sizes, and the biggest size is really, really big. So for this bit of pattern, which was new, I think the pattern calls for 8 of these stripes. And after that, you can even continue with this bit of pattern if you need really long socks. But for me, I checked after I had done 3 of those stripes, and it was a bit short. I was not quite at my little toe yet. And then with the 4th stripe, it was almost too much, but the toe is fairly small, so the socks fit perfectly now. I had to make adjustments again when I started the toe because I knit the heel flap shorter, so I had fewer stitches, and then decreased quite a few stitches. So I started with 72 stitches, but in the foot I continued with 62 stitches because that was more than enough for my foot. There weren't that many cables to pull it in, so I didn't need all that many stitches, and I don't mind for the leg, but I wouldn't have liked to have that many stitches for my foot, so I decreased a lot of stitches here. And then when I came to the toe, I did not knit any of the first round decreases, and then the second time I had a decrease round, I only did half of them, and then I had the number of stitches that I was supposed to have, and I could finish the toe the way he wrote it, which I think is quite an interesting toe. Yeah, and I sort of like all the different patterns. I don't know that I needed all of them in one sock. But on the other hand, I don't mind. I love the colors that I chose. I think it's a funny sock. It's a one-of-a-kind sock in a way. Oh, by the way, I'll be showing both socks now. I do like the fact that it's a left and a right sock, and I'm looking forward to finishing this one. And then same as with the Sockmadness socks, I'm looking forward to the colder weather to be able to actually wear them. So I'm not showing anything anymore, just in case you were looking away. These are the Contrast Blast socks, and hope to finish the second one this week. The next pair of socks are the film reel socks, and that's the one where I have another finished sock. And these are the second pair of film reel socks for my second nephew. It's the 5th pair that I'm knitting with the Cats and Dogs series from Opal, and really happy with this sock. I started the second one. I only just started it. The colors did move a little bit, so I think I'm at the color from around here, so it's just a bit different, but it should make for a nicely different second sock, and I'll be hopefully knitting a lot on that this week and next week so that I can get them finished in time. That's the film reel sock. And then the last pair of socks that I have on the needles that you already know are the pattern battle socks that I'm knitting out of another of the Opal Abo yarns, the subscription yarns. And I'm knitting the Sarah Scott stockings out of the book Blue Stockings by... Keep forgetting her name. The Blue Stockings was written by, I didn't write it down. You can find out. I've linked the book underneath the video, so, or you can look on my Ravelry page. I have the pattern link there as well. And these socks are knit from the toe up, and I'd finished the heel, and I've now put in, or I'm putting in the second color work bit. And then I still want to do the stockings, but probably not put another color pattern band at the top of the stockings, but I rather wanted to have it down here. The red yarn is another colorway out of the Cats and Dogs series, and you can see that the red color has moved to a darker bit than from down here. I could stop the sock after I finish the color work. I could just do a little bit of, not ribbing. I could do ribbing, or I could finish it some other way and have just small socks, but I really do want the long socks, the stockings. So I will probably go on knitting. When I started the second bit of color work, I noticed that the flowers are not on top of each other, but they sort of offset. So the flower sits like in between those two flowers. And at first I thought I'd made a mistake, and I checked in the book, but that's actually what the pattern calls for. And that's because the beginning of round moves. For the foot part, the beginning of round is at the side of the sock. And then after the heel, the beginning of round is moved to the back of the sock. And that's why the flowers sit a bit... not right on top of each other, that's what I'm trying to say. But I quite like it, I don't mind, and it's in the pattern, so I kept it this way. If I knit the pattern for my sister, at some point I will have to ask her how she would like her flowers to be. Yeah, quite happy with this. As soon as I finish with the color work, I will start the second sock up to the same point as this one, and then I can knit the two, the upper bits of the stocking at the same time. So that's the plan, and that's why I knit the one color bits of that sock on a long circular needle, so I can knit them at the same time. But for the color work, I always use the tiny circular needle, so I have less problems with the floats. And also because I changed the needle size, and I go down a needle size for the color work because my floats are usually rather loose, to make sure that I can get in and out of the sock, and but it tends to get too loose, so that's why I go down a needle size for the color work. And that reminds me that I was asked about the floats in the film reel socks by someone, and I promised to show the inside, and I keep forgetting to do that. So I'll quickly do that now, because with the film reel socks, it's a very regular pattern. So the floats are always the same length. And what I do is I cross them. One row I cross after 2 stitches and then knit 3, and then I cross after 3 stitches and then knit 2. So where I cross my yarns to catch the float, it just keeps moving 1 stitch further and then back. So it's very regular, that's what I'm trying to say. And it still keeps my sock really stretchy so that my nephew can get his foot in without a problem. Yeah, so you can see I haven't woven in any of the ends yet. This is what this sock looks like from the inside. And you can see all the floats and all the yarn ends. Yeah, so that's that. That's it for socks, but I'll now show you my new cast on, which isn't a proper sock, but it's a slipper. It's like a house shoe, and it's a test knit for Yuki Knits. And I forgot to write down what the pattern is going to be called, but maybe she's going to change the name, so I'll tell you next week. So I'm test knitting these slippers, and this is what the first one looks like. I put in a ball of yarn so it looks more like a shoe and it doesn't look too strange. I used the yarn Polar by Wolle. This is half wool, half acrylic with a bit of sparkly yarn in there. Doesn't really pick up a lot, but maybe you can see it on screen. I bought this yarn many years ago. I knit half a vest, and then the pattern didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I ripped out the whole thing, and I kept the yarn for some day, and then when this pattern came along, this was the right needle size and gauge, so that's what I decided to use, and I'm sure I'm going to find someone with feet small enough to fit in here. I can put my foot inside, but it stretches it out quite a lot, so I think it'll be better to find someone with slightly smaller feet than mine. And this has a buttonhole here, so this can be buttoned up like this. And the pattern will come with two different options. The other option is going to be with the cuff folded down like this, and then a button in the middle here. And as usual with my test knits, I'll let you know when the pattern is going to be available. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about that for now. But that was my one new cast on. Finished the first one, haven't started the second one yet. Okay, then the next project is Normanda of Grimblewood, the next gnome I'm knitting by Sarah Shearer, and I finished her body. And that's all I managed to do. There we have the little stitched hat, and finished the body, finished the decreases. My sister gave me one of her stones to put in so that she can stand comfortably. And now I have to do all the little things like nose and arms and braids and her pullover or dress. Still haven't looked it up. Okay, so that's her. And then we come to the clothes that I have on the needles. I not only continued knitting on the children's dress that I'm knitting, but I checked for the yarn and I actually found 2 more balls of yarn. So I finished knitting the one I was working on last week. I have this that I'm working with now, and I have 2 more 50-gram balls of yarn. So the dress is going to be quite a bit longer than I thought last week, and I'm very happy that it's going to be longer. And yeah, still haven't asked my cousin for her daughter's measurements. Maybe I'll remember to do that this week. But till then, I can just keep knitting, stockinette in the round. I have my round counter to help me place the increases. And yeah, otherwise this is my favorite. I don't have to think about it knitting that I have. The next garment that I'm showing you is the Llama Pullover. And with this one, I actually did quite a bit of knitting, even though it's almost invisible. And what I mean by that is that last time I showed the pullover to you, this is the back. So it goes fairly high up into the neck, and this is the front, so that's a lot lower. The pattern is Wiener Hop by Nicola Susan. It's one of her Maximum Freedom patterns, so you do the gauge swatch as part of your pullover. And I think last week the sleeve probably looked very much like this. Maybe I've added 1 stripe, but in the meantime I had knit 2 more of those stripes onto the sleeve. I tried it on again and then decided that the sleeve was too tight. I kept telling myself it's fairly tight but not too tight, but then I kept decreasing and it just ended up being too tight. So I undid the complete sleeve except for the first few rounds where I hadn't decreased, and then I re-knit the sleeve without decreases until now. Still haven't done any decreases, and I'm planning on starting the decreases now. So, as I said, not a big difference to last week, but a lot of knitting has happened. But that's how things work sometimes. So that's why I haven't finished the sleeve. Maybe I can finish the sleeve this week, and hopefully it's going to fit then. So that's that. And then I'm almost through. I'm really quick today, but that's okay. I did not crochet on the little scarf or collar that I started last week. For some reason, I never got round to working on that. I will make it a priority this week, so I do keep working on it before I forget how the pattern works. Yeah. So I really hope I can show you some progress next week. And that already brings me to the last project, the crochet along that we are doing on this channel, where we crochet this hexagon cardigan. And I decided that the cardigan is now long enough to do the crocheting around all the edges. For now, I finished one sleeve, not this one, that one. I decided to add one more round to the sleeves after I'd done one round around the neck, and decided this is long enough. So I finished the round. I cut off the ball of yarn that was hanging here. That's this bit of yarn, so I can use that to first finish this round. So there's only a few stitches missing, but my skein ran out, so I didn't finish that. So I'll use this yarn to finish this round, add one more round, then the sleeves are the same length, and I'll call them finished. And this is the other ball of yarn that I was working with to make the cardigan longer. And so I've done the row that was missing on one of the fronts. Not quite sure which one it was. And then I crocheted around the front, the lower edge, the front, and the neckline. So this one row, that's sort of combining, or it's not combining, but it's sort of going around all the edges. And I want to crochet at least one more round like that, and maybe even a third round if I have enough yarn and if it looks good. So the neckline was a bit wider than I expected. I think with everything hanging on it, it sort of stretched out more than when I first tried it on, and all the pieces were still smaller. So that's why I want a bit more, just a tiny bit more fabric around the neck. And I think with this bit and this bit, I might be able to get it done. And then the crocheting is finished. Then all I need to do is weave in the ends. And so on some buttons, I've already looked for buttons. I actually found two kinds of red buttons that I like with this. I also found blue buttons, but the blue ones weren't quite as nice. And I'm probably going to use the bigger red ones that I found. Yeah, but then I'll have to see how to space them and where to put them. But of course, I'll only do that once I've finished all the crocheting. Yeah, so that's a bit of a shorter video, but I hope, you still enjoyed seeing all the progress on my project. And yeah, I've showed you everything that I knit and crochet last week. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!